Greetings, my fellow Americans. This is your President Samuel Ronan speaking, and today is Recap Thursdays. We did start a little bit late because there is trick-or-treat happening around these parts, and that's why you can see I'm a little disheveled. So, it was crazy out there. There were kids with just screaming bloody murder. Give me candy! I thought you were the president! People with props out there saying, I need the candy now! It was wild out there. So, we are back, and we are ready to rock. So, hello, Anna. I hope you had fun with your daughter trick-or-treating as well. So, it looks like, we are serving the people one trick-or-treat at a time. With that said, it is Recap Thursdays. We are covering news that we may have missed over the past couple of days, plus anything that was breaking today. So let's just jump right in that. I know we've lost, or we didn't have a chance to build up to this hour. Usually we have our regulars joining us right now, so hopefully they remembered that we were starting a little bit late and are joining us presently. So let's go ahead and start with Democracy Now!
Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Sudan's government says the Rapid Support Forces paramilitary group has killed at least 2,000 people in the 3 days since it seized control of the city of Al Fasher in North Darfur. This comes as the World Health Organization says it's appalled by reports that 460 patients and their companions were slaughtered at the Saudi maternity hospital in Al Fasher.
I mean, that is, there was zero, preparation for it. There was no warning about what that video was. That was just straight up, there was wholesale slaughter in Saudi Arabia. Jesus.
Wednesday, UN Refugee Agency official Jacqueline Wilma Parlavliet said tens of thousands of displaced people have been arriving at Tawila, a refuge for civilians fleeing the violence. They describe widespread ethnically and politically motivated killings and indiscriminate attacks, particularly affecting the most vulnerable.
We have accounts of people with disabilities.
This is out of left field. Have we not been covering this? Or is this something that just now happened? Killing people, homes, hospitals, tent cities. Yeah. But this is happening in Saudi Arabia, is I think what they were saying. So, like we've been saying, it's not just fascism in America and Europe, or Israel for that matter. The whole world is losing its fucking mind, and it is continuing to devolve as fascist powers are finally able to consolidate after however many years of preparation. The fact that the whole world is coalescing under fascism all at once is deeply concerning and will probably be studied in years down the road.
Who were executed, who were killed.
Oh, Sudan, sorry.
As they were
Saudi
unable
Arabia.
to flee. But we also hear people that are trying to leave the city and manage to get out of the city, but on the way they're caught up and they are also being shot.
In Gaza, Israel's military launched several airstrikes on the southern city of Khan Yunis this morning, even after it announced a resumption of the ceasefire. The bombings followed a wave of...
How are you going to resume a ceasefire and then immediately start airstriking various places? That doesn't even make sense. That doesn't add up. That is not... It's like, again... It's just saying words so that they can say it publicly, we're resuming the ceasefire, while still doing all of the evil, heinous shit that they've been doing the entire time, as if by saying the magic words, ceasefire, it makes up for all of the war crimes that they are committing.
Israeli attacks a day earlier that killed at least 104 civilians, including 46 children. On Wednesday, friends and neighbors held a funeral procession through Nuseirat for the Abu Dalal family, killed by an Israeli strike on their home.
9
people from the Abu Dalal family and the house next to us were completely wiped out. Not a single person survived. They pulled them out, all as remains from under the rubble, remains. They would bring a piece of the body and say, this belongs to so-and-so. Bring a hand and say, this belongs to so-and-so. It was a very difficult process.
Meanwhile, Israeli forces have intensified raids across the occupied West Bank, storming villages near Jenin and Ramallah. Separately, Israeli settlers stormed a Bedouin village east of Jerusalem, destroying Palestinian property and blocking roads. In another incident, Israeli settlers cut down hundreds of olive trees near Nablus. The settler attacks came as Israeli authorities said they would deport 2 Jewish women who recently joined Palestinians harvesting olives.
So the only thing the Israelis will do against fellow Israelis is if the Israelis are helping Palestinians. Like, that is who they are punishing. They are going to punish the Israelis who help Palestinians. But tell me more about how Israel is the good guys in any sense of the imagination.
Statement, the group Rabbis for Human Rights said, quote, the decision to deport these volunteers reflects an alarming trend of silencing nonviolent human rights work and Jewish voices for justice in Israel-Palestine, unquote. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said Wednesday the Pentagon had bombed another alleged drug trafficking boat in international waters in the Eastern Pacific, killing 4 people. In a social media post, Hegseth wrote, quote, the Western Hemisphere is no longer a safe haven for narco-terrorists bringing drugs to our shores to poison Americans, unquote. He provided no evidence supporting his claims there were drugs aboard the vessel.
That's what I was trying to say. Israel saying, okay, we're going to resume the ceasefire and then airstrike civilian buildings and locations is the same thing as Hegseth ordering extrajudicial killings and calling it narco-terrorists. Like, you can't just say one thing and do another and think that it somehow evens out. That's not how any of this works.
This comes as CNN is reporting the Trump administration pushed 3-star General Joe McGee out of his role on the Pentagon's Joint Staff following months of tensions with Secretary Hegseth on issues ranging from Russia and Ukraine to the extrajudicial killings in the Caribbean.
All right, so finally, a general, a military leader who is actually standing up to this stupidity, this brazen disregard for human life and the rule of law. So, Anna, let's go ahead and write down Lieutenant General Joseph McGee. Maybe we can restore him to his generalship during our administration, because there are apparently entirely too few military leaders that are willing to stand up towards fascism.
President Trump says he's agreed to a 1-year trade truce with China that includes the rollback of some tariffs following face-to-face talks in South Korea with Chinese President Xi Jinping. As part of the deal, Beijing agreed to postpone export controls on rare earth minerals and said it would crack down on fentanyl trafficking. China also agreed to resume buying American-made soybeans. We'll have more on the Trump-Xi summit later in the broadcast.
So, I mean, we definitely covered this yesterday because it was during the Worldwide Wednesday. But we would be remiss, and we cannot forget, and we cannot overlook the simple fact that this trade agreement with China that we have now brokered is bringing us back to square one. We were at a deficit because we kept shooting ourselves in the foot, and now we are back to the starting line. We are literally back to the starting line where we were, where China was not threatening to withhold rare earth metals or exports, and was also now agreeing to buy soybeans. This is where we were at the beginning of the year. We already had those things until this piece of garbage threw a fucking stick of dynamite into it. So, again, this is not anything to praise. This is not an accomplishment. This is Xi Jinping saying, oh, you're done playing games? Fine. We will restore the trade agreements that were in effect prior to you being a dumbass. And make no mistake, that is exactly what is happening.
President Trump says he's instructed the Pentagon to begin testing nuclear weapons for the first time in 33 years. Citing China and Russia, Trump wrote on his Truth Social platform, quote, "Because of other countries' testing programs, I've instructed the Department of War to start testing our nuclear weapons on an equal basis," unquote. It is unclear what he was referring to. Russia and China have not tested a nuclear weapon in decades. North Korea tested a nuclear weapon more than 8 years ago. The U.S. conducted its last nuclear test back in 1992, soon after President George H.W. Bush announced a moratorium on nuclear weapons testing. After headlines, we'll have more on the story.
I thought when he was talking about that, he was talking about the nuclear ballistics missile that Russia created. So, again, this idiot-in-chief just continues to be led around by the nose and is jumping at any bit that he thinks makes him look better because other countries are doing it. When all he needs to do is invest in the American people, in our infrastructure, in our businesses, in our cities and homes, and he would achieve all of those milestones that he is trying to chase from China and Russia. Like, invest in your country instead of building a fucking ballroom or deploying the military into our cities. How is that benefiting anyone? That's not governance. That's not leadership. That is literally authoritarianism. But I digress, because authoritarianism is the goal.
Hurricane Melissa is bearing down on Bermuda after leaving a trail of destruction across the Caribbean, with at least 34 confirmed dead, most of them in Haiti. Jamaica's confirmed at least 8 deaths after Melissa made landfall Tuesday as one of the most powerful Atlantic hurricanes on record. This is Sasha Hamilton, a resident of the...
Notice how every single year, we have a new most powerful storm on record, or second most powerful storm on record. Every single year, we get Cat 5 hurricanes that are going from this on the map to this on the map. The Hurricane Katrina, the one that devastated the South, that did billions of dollars, was the most destructive hurricane in history, was this big on the map. Now, Cat 5 hurricanes are this big on the map, and being so powerful that they're wrapping up the east or west, the west coast, in order to devastate coastal regions that have never been impacted by hurricanes before. Just destroying vast swaths of land that have been unheard of in all of history. They're happening now, back to back to back to back to back. And that is indicative of climate change. Like, that is the definitive example of climate change.
The hard-hit Catherine Hall neighborhood of Montego Bay in Jamaica.
Yesterday was absolutely catastrophic and life-threatening. We were totally inundated. The entire ground floors of all the houses in Catherine Hall and West Green have been flooded. Major asset loss to vehicles, furnitures. We had to do rescue, and we are literally desperate for some help at this point.
According to AccuWeather, Hurricane Melissa...
I really liked the way she said some of those things, like talking about assets. It's crazy because we speak English, but Jamaican English is a second language. And then there's the cultural influences, the cultural inflections as well that they throw, because no English speaker would talk about assets. That we would talk about our cars or our homes, right? But we wouldn't talk about assets. Obviously this, I don't know why I'm going anthropological. I don't know where I'm going Professor Ronan all of a sudden, but I don't know. I really do like language, and I really do like culture, and, you know, I guess I'm so desperate and thirsty to hear it that I'll just reach at the first one that comes across.
Bay in Jamaica.
Yesterday was absolutely catastrophic and life-threatening.
Oh,
The AccuWeather building could take more than a decade. The United Nations General Assembly condemned the U.S. embargo on Cuba for the 33rd consecutive year. On Wednesday, 165 countries.
I thought we ended the embargo on Cuba. I thought that was finally lifted under Obama. Am I missing something? Jamaican patois is crazy. Oh, is that the dialect? Is that what it's called? Jamaican patois? Okay, that's pretty rad. Okay, thank you. I learned something. I thought, okay, so did Obama lift trade restrictions on Cuba? Cuban thaw. Okay, so that's what I thought it was. All right, that's fair. I was a little overzealous on that. Opened relations a bit. Gotcha. That's all right. Patois, Creole. Okay. Still, that is really neat. Hopefully our campaign gets a chance to go into Creole, Louisiana, and we can have some really good linguistic chats there too.
Voted in favor of a non-binding resolution calling on the U.S. to lift the embargo, while 7 nations, including the U.S., Ukraine, and Israel, voted against it. This is Cuban Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez.
Yeah, I don't understand why the United Nations is trying to vote on something to force America to do something when America has veto powers and refuses to comply with the United Nations votes in the first place. Like, I don't understand why they tried it. Oh, I get it. Okay, so Trump had to undo everything Obama did, and okay, that's where we're at. Gotcha.
El bloqueo es una política de castigo colectivo.
The blockade is collective punishment as an act of genocide which flagrantly, massively, and systematically violates the human rights of Cubans. It doesn't distinguish between social sectors or economic actors.
Si el gobierno de Estados Unidos,
If the United States government had the smallest concern with helping the Cuban people, as they say, suspend or make humanitarian exceptions to the blockade, given the damage it will cause, just like Hurricane Melissa is causing.
Wednesday's vote came as the hurricane struck eastern Cuba, causing major damage but no deaths after more than 700,000 people were evacuated. Later in the broadcast, we'll get an update from...
Do you know how impressive? Do you understand how impressive that statistic is? And I'm gonna touch on the genocide thing, but we clipped right into this. It is practically unheard of for an evacuation to be so successful that it doesn't result in any loss of life. Because there's usually the holdouts. There's always the holdouts, right? So even if you evacuate a shit ton of people, there's still those people who will stay behind, and then they're the ones that inevitably die. So to evacuate 700,000 people with no deaths, that is an impressive accomplishment. So, with the genocide thing, though, yeah, an embargo and blockade is absolutely trying to cut off trade and resources to a given nation, in this case, right? Cuba. And the fact that so many countries are a part of it, or that America is enforcing it to a bunch of different countries, does limit and dramatically harm Cuba. And that's, and I didn't know it was as bad as, causing a genocide. I didn't realize it was that bad. Obviously, it's politically motivated. Obviously, it's racially motivated. I'm not arguing those things. I didn't realize it was causing that much harm to the Cuban people, because a lot of what we've talked about with regards to Cuba is how their doctors are some of the best in the world, and that they are traveling all over the world to ply their trade. So, definitely worth, and I'm also glad that representatives in the United Nations are calling out Americans' actions as genocidal or restrictive or colonizing or whatever, because nobody prior to this moment in history has been doing that, and it is long, long overdue. All right. My maternal grandfather knew Haitian patois, or patois. Hold on. It was patois. Yeah, patois. Cajun is so funny. It's like a hillbilly trying to speak French with 1 month of practice. Fair enough. A former U.S. government agent said that the U.S. interferes with all deals that Cuba tries to make around the world, and about 9 out of 10 fail due to U.S. pressure. Well, that's funny because I think now China and Russia are finally engaging in trade with Cuba, which is another reason why Russia and China being a big scare. All right. Moving right along.
Reporter Liva Hernandez, who's on the ground in Santiago de Cuba. The U.S. federal government shutdown has entered its 30th day. On Wednesday, Senate Majority Leader John Thune blocked a bid by Senate Democrats to fund food assistance through the shutdown after the Trump administration refused to draw.
Let's hear that again, shall we?
Majority Leader John Thune, Hernandez, who's on the ground in Santiago de Cuba.
All right. I want everybody to pay attention because this next thing out of her mouth is about the government shutdown, and I want you to listen very closely what's happening.
The U.S. federal government shutdown has entered its 30th day. On Wednesday, Senate Majority Leader John Thune blocked a bid by Senate Democrats to fund food assistance through the shutdown after the Trump administration refused to draw from a $5 billion contingency fund to maintain SNAP.
So, it is on the congressional record that the Republican majority leader blocked the provision to fund SNAP using emergency funds, which exists to fund SNAP during the shutdown, because Trump also made a point of not spending that money. So Trump ordered it, and Thune, the Republican Senate Majority Leader, enforced it. So again, this shutdown and all of the harm that it is causing rests solely, purely on the shoulders of the Republican Party.
The Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. Without federal funding, some 42 million people who rely on SNAP could lose benefits beginning on Saturday.
Which is about 15% of the population.
A congressional candidate in Illinois' 9th District has been indicted in federal charges by the Department of Justice. Democrat Kat Abou-Gazela faces one count of conspiracy and one charge alleging she, quote, forcibly impeded, intimidated, and interfered, unquote, with an ICE officer. She's been free.
Did they try to charge this tiny blonde woman with intimidation of an ICE officer? Also, she's a congressional candidate, meaning she's me running for office, and they are trying to charge her as a terrorist while running for office because she was protesting ICE, and ICE threw her on the ground and possibly hurt her tailbone.
Frequently protesting outside the ICE facility in Broadview, Illinois. Soon after indictment, she posted this video on social media.
As I and others have exercised our First Amendment rights, ICE has hit, dragged, thrown, shot with pepper balls, and tear gassed hundreds of protesters. Simply because we had the gall to say that masked men coming into our communities, abducting our neighbors, and terrorizing us cannot be our new normal. And because Chicago doesn't back down from bullies in masks who tear gas our neighborhoods, this administration has resorted to weaponizing the federal justice system to scare us into silence. But we're not going to be silent.
To see our interview with...
Okay. Anna, take notes. We need to reach out to her because she is doing this social media thing and video recording thing way better than me. Well, she looks like she knows what she's doing. She's got the mic in there so you can see the mic, which I don't know if that really matters per se. It just matters that the mic is the right distance away. But like, she has the right framing in the camera. She has her little campaign stuff above her head. Outstanding. Like, this is well done. Like, this is what we need. I need to learn how to do what Kat just did. But everything she also said, I'm sorry. Sometimes I go on the wrong tangent. I am praising her social media skill set, but she is a congressional candidate, and the words that she said about the federal government trying to use fear and intimidation and weaponizing the federal justice system is 1,000% valid, is 1,000% correct, and she is now going to be a victim of it. Now, the question is her platform and presence as a candidate and her brief virality from that video going to help her in getting pro bono legal support, because going up against the federal justice system is not like challenging your speeding ticket at your local county court. It's not like arguing with your neighbor about, you know, the tree being in their fence, right? Like these aren't small claims. Like this is a big freaking deal. And the lawyers who do these kinds of trials, the defense of it, those are big players. Like you're ponying up hundreds, if not thousands of dollars an hour to deal with this case. So I truly hope her position, her platform is strong enough and rising quickly enough to where a hot up and coming attorney will take up her case to put their name on the map, because otherwise, I genuinely am concerned for her future. The weaponization of the Justice Department, those charges being filed at all, those are signs of authoritarianism cracking down against dissent. And if they can do that as a political weapon, it's only going to get that much worse for people like me and people like you who are protesting, running for office, or helping candidates. So we definitely need to keep an eye on Cat.
Scare us into silence.
Oye, Jose. In Puerto Rico, the hard R is pronounced like a strong H in English. The soft R is pronounced like an L. Oh, you guys are talking languages. Never mind. Sorry.
But we're not going to be silent.
To see our interview with Kat Abu-Ghazaleh, go to democracynow.org.
Abu-Ghazaleh, all right.
The Department of Justice has suspended 2 federal prosecutors after they referred in court documents to the January 6th insurrection as being carried out by a mob of rioters. The prosecutors, Carlos Valdivia and Samuel White, had filed a sentencing memo against January 6 rioter Taylor Taranto, who was pardoned by President Trump on the first day of his second term in office. The 2 prosecutors were seeking 27 months in prison for Taranto for bringing guns and illegal ammunition to President Barack Obama's home in 2023 after Trump posted Obama's Washington address on social media. By Wednesday afternoon, the sentencing document was removed and replaced with another document without references to January 6th, Trump's social media post, and the 2 prosecutors.
So speaking of weaponizing the justice system, people doing their jobs are being removed, and the work that they are doing to correctly charge people that with crimes that they committed are being sanitized by bootlickers, right? Bootlickers of the Trump administration to do what the Trump administration wants. Like, this is not good. Like, these are definitely very worrying signs.
In Illinois convicted Sean Grayson, a sheriff's deputy, of second-degree murder in the 2024 shooting death of Sonia Massey, a black mother of 2, who had called 911 herself about a suspected prowler. Grayson was originally charged with first-degree murder, but the jury opted to convict him on a lesser charge. That prompted anger from Massey's supporters, including her father, James Wilburn.
There's a difference in this country when you have my skin color and Grayson's skin color. We need serious justice, not a miscarriage of justice.
I'm sorry, I thought the conviction was the conviction that they wanted, and then it turns out that was the lesser conviction. And he's absolutely fucking right. If you're black, you are in a different world for the criminal justice system than if you're white, let alone if you're a cop.
That happened here in Peoria. We need to pass the George Floyd Policing Act. We need to pass the John Lewis Voting Act. Yes. We need to make the Sonia Massey law across the whole United States. Yes. Then no family in our country can go through what our family has gone through.
What's crazy is that there's a Sonia Massey law because of Sonia Massey being murdered by a cop, and then the cop who did the murdering is getting the lesser charge from a jury of his peers. This is one of the reasons why I don't actually like the jury system, because you constantly see white people brazenly and blatantly throwing the book at black defendants, but then white defendants get the kid gloves for the same exact fucking crime. And that's because of intrinsic racial bias, right? Because if it was a bunch of black people on the jury stand for a black person, it would be reversed. They probably wouldn't throw the book as hard at the black person, or perhaps they throw the book even harder because, well, I don't want black people like me to get negatively impacted, which is still a double whammy. Race and racism is such an integral part of our country's institutions that in order for us to actually have a fair criminal justice system, a truly fair legal system, we have to address that problem first, the racism. We have to address it, because otherwise, the Sonia Massey law that gets passed in one state, or maybe all 50 states, while the murdering cop barely gets a 5-year sentence, is a fucking problem, is the proof, is the evidence that we live in a racist, white supremacist country. Yeah, it's mostly news, unfortunately.
July 2024, Sean Grayson, another deputy, arrived at Massey's house after she reported suspicious activity. Grayson then shot Massey after he confronted her about handling a pot of hot water. There is no indication from body cam video that Massey intended to throw the hot water at either officer. And in the Netherlands, the center-left D66.
This motherfucker damn near got away with murder. Granted, he got convicted on the lesser charge, but not the charge that fucking matters, that would have put him away for years and years and years.
Party made huge gains in national elections, winning the largest share of seats in the Dutch House of Representatives. The far-right anti-immigrant party of Geert Wilders lost support and came in second. The election was triggered after Wilders pulled his party.
Yeah, but okay, so he lost, but he's in second. So you have the centrist party winning, and then you have the alt-right right there. That's not a reassuring turn of events either. Like, the alt-right needs to be summarily crushed in the political theater. Like, that would be reassuring. The fact that they are still neck and neck or vying or a viable power is disturbing.
Out of the government in June after the other parties refused to endorse his anti-refugee policies. The election results allow the 38-year-old Rob Jetten to form a government as the Netherlands' youngest and first openly gay prime minister.
This is an historic election result because we've shown not only to the Netherlands but also to the world that it is possible to beat populist and extreme right movements.
And those are some of the headlines. This is...
I guess that was ending on a high note for, modern 2025 local and national news, international news. Okay. So, Anna still gave us one hell of a list to work with. So let's see what we got here. Oh, okay. Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act. Prices. This is something that is probably going to be impactful.
New this morning, Americans getting their first look at how much they will have
quite
to
a
pay
bit
for
of people.
health care coverage under Obamacare next year. For many, it could cost hundreds, if not thousands of dollars more. With us now,
there
Tammy Luby, CNN senior writer. Her story on this is up right now on CNN.com. Tammy, always great to see you. What are you learning here? What's the price tag people are looking at?
Well, we now are getting a first look at what the actual premiums will be for those in the 30 states that shop on the Federal Exchange, healthcare.gov. Now, CMS and KFF released yesterday that overall premiums will go up 26%.
All right, let's just stop right there. We could stop this segment right there. Can anyone, do you know anybody who is paying for health insurance on the exchange or otherwise? Do you know anybody who can afford a 26% increase in premiums? For reference, that is a quarter. That is 1/4 added on. for simple numbers, if your premiums were $1,000 already, they will now be $1,250. If your premiums were $600 a month, they will be $725 a month instead. No, wait, no. I'm sorry, $500. Sorry. If they were $500 a month, they would be $625 instead. Like, people cannot afford a 26% increase in health insurance costs, because people can't afford a 26% increase in any costs, because we're already dealing with an 80 to 140% increase in all costs since COVID. And now you just want to add more to it? Like, that's unsustainable. Let's compare those to what the prices will be under the Trump's plan. I'm pretty sure you're going to be paying a lot more under Trump's lunacy. Well, that's what they're saying. Like, the preliminary estimate is a minimum of 26% going up on average.
That's what insurers, those are the rates insurers are charging. That's their increase. But because of the expiring federal subsidies, the actual amount that people will pay will be far more. So when folks go onto healthcare.gov now, they can look at their 2026 plans, and they're probably going to be pretty shocked at what they see.
Are you going to give us a fucking example?
When you say pretty shocked at what they see, and when we talk about the failure to extend the Obamacare subsidies, how much more roughly? And I know it depends on each plan and it depends on the individual, but what are we talking about here? If it's a 26% increase on overall premiums, they don't have the subsidies, which in and of themselves, I thought we were estimating could cause people 30% increases.
Right. Well, the insurers are raising their rates by 30%, but actually, according to KFF, the amount people are paying could actually more than double. They're thinking that the premiums that people actually pay because of the expiring enhanced subsidies will go up 114%. And
so, I believe Simply just called that. I think Steve called that one right there. Let's compare those to what the prices will be under Trump's plan. I'm pretty sure you're going to be paying a lot more under Trump's lunacy. Simply just called that out. 114% increase on premiums. And the last time I looked at what it would cost to get health insurance, it was like $350 for a single adult healthy male. I definitely can't afford that. Never mind almost $750 for the same health insurance. Well, are you leaving, Durandi? Get some rest. I didn't realize that's what you were talking about. No, it's not a 50% increase. It's a 114% increase. That is what she just said. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to do some basic math. No, or research. You're right. It doesn't. But that's the thing. Nobody's doing the research. Now, obviously what's going to happen with this is that Trump is going to blame Democrats and this, that, and the other. But at the end of the day, it's Republicans making this choice. So, we really need to do the messaging. Food, shelter, wages, healthcare. We demand better prices, better access, better quality, food, shelter, wages, healthcare. Because literally, they are going to increase the premiums around 114% across 30 states. That is absolutely insane. What if we blame a different party? So we're going to not blame the Republicans or the Democrats? What are we going to do? Blame the Green Party? I mean, may as well, right? They have less power and influence and less to do about this than the Republicans do as well. So we may as well, because apparently that's what we do. We just point fingers at anyone other than the responsible parties. That's nuts. 114% possible increases. People can't afford 26% increases, let alone 114% increases on premiums that were already in the multiple hundreds. During a time where people do not have savings and do not have an income to pay for hundreds of dollars worth of stuff anyway. Like, people are going to die in droves. And of course, that's probably the goal. But the question is this right here, is that finally going to be the wake-up call that Republicans are actively trying to kill their constituents? And are those people finally going to recognize that they have been lied to and misled and literally betrayed? Anna, speaking of things to save, I think we should 100% save this video as well and reference the numbers they were talking about, because that's definitely going to help us in our congressional campaign. Okay, so there's a couple of videos about Trump's third term. Hopefully it covers.
It's so weird to make a hat for a thing that can't happen. Wearing a Trump 2028 hat is like wearing a hat that says Super Bowl champion, New York Jets.
So yes, those Trump 2028 hats, which are in fact selling on the official Trump store for $50, taking on new meaning for those who say that they take President Trump seriously after he once again floated the idea of running for a third term, despite being prohibited from doing so by the 22nd Amendment. Today, the House Speaker, Mike Johnson, himself a constitutional lawyer, revealed...
Mike Johnson is a constitutional lawyer? And he's... he is personally undermining the Constitution every single chance he can get to wield power as Speaker of the House, but he's a constitutional lawyer. Then that clearly means fucking nothing. Then I'm a constitutional lawyer. That I must be a better constitutional lawyer because I don't want to tear that thing up. Like, that doesn't... President apparently doesn't mean anything anymore, because clearly president is just, a position of office where I can enrich myself now and be one of the most brazen pieces of shit on planet Earth. Like, this party, the Republican Party, has eroded the credibility of titles, positions, and just the dignity of office and serving in politics across the fucking board. Absolutely ridiculous.
That he has in fact spoken about the possibility with the president.
I think the president knows, and he and I have talked about the constrictions of the Constitution, as much as so many of the American people lament that. The Trump 2028 cap is one of the most popular that's ever been produced, and he has a good time with that, trolling the Democrats whose hair is on fire about the very prospect. I don't see a way to amend the Constitution because it takes about 10 years to do that, as you all know, to allow all the states to ratify what 2/3 of the House and 3/4 of the states would approve. So I don't see the path for that.
All right, my panel's here in the arena.
Well, I mean, at least he's not choking on the boot so hard that he's trying to claim that there is a path to the third presidency, because there isn't unless you throw away the Constitution, which, if you keep the Congress shut down longer, eventually you can get away with doing that, which seems to be the intent regardless. The fact your automod flagged me saying people should spend more time doing research shows that Twitch is a licking boot. Oh, that's crazy. Oh, my bad, dude. Yeah, I didn't realize the auto mod was... I mean, I have the mod up as high as I can because we do get trolled quite often and quite brazenly, so that is kind of crazy. All of this is public info. A day of research can really open your mind because I misspelled public. Sure, Twitch, sure. Oh, I see, yeah. No, and that's the thing, though, right? Like, none of the stuff that the Republicans say... She really looks like the troll face meme. Sorry. But everything that comes out of Republicans' mouths can usually be discredited with a cursory Google search. And that's the crazy thing. It doesn't really make that much of a difference what they say. It's the fact that people listen to it and take it as the gospel. They don't question, they don't challenge, because they have been raised by this to believe blindly what authority figures say. And that is something we drastically need to overcome. Right, it is your duty as a citizen to fact check it, and evidently that has been lost on many. Now, for those of you who may not know the troll meme, like, okay, I just wanted a bigger version of that. All right, troll meme. This lady. Troll meme. This lady. Just saying. All right. Back to the ranch. Back to our normally scheduled. All right. A little bit of the New York City election.
So early voting is in full swing as New York City
that's
is
right,
set
because
to elect
that's
its next
right around the
mayor.
corner.
And new data shows a record number of people, more than 200,000, casting their ballots so far.
Democrat Zoran Mamdani still seen as the front runner despite lukewarm support from some.
I like how, this is CNN, but I like the pictures that they chose. A smiling, bright Zoran Mamdani, a very creepy picture of Andrew Cuomo, and then I guess Silva wearing an army beret. I guess he served and was like a red beret, like it was Curtis Silva military service, because doesn't that violate the Hatch Act? So he was never in the military? Hold on a second. So he's wearing a red beret. For what fucking reason then? Oh, he created a Guardian Angels group. So hold up. How did he go from creating a anti-government social support group that wore red berets to becoming one of the biggest bootlickers on planet Earth? What? So Silva at one point was based as fuck and then just lost his fucking mind? Oh, or was it after nearly getting assassinated? How do you go from I don't. Oh, wait, hold on. So this looks like it was a citizens-based vigilante group. Okay, never mind. So he wasn't based. He was always a bootlicker. Never mind. I guess I'm so used to seeing berets being associated with based activities, and the fact that they were Hispanic and black, that I was just like, oh, sweet. So this was like the Black Panthers, but no. Nope. Apparently not. Nope. Could not be. So, go figure. The racist Black Panther. Awesome. That's what we got here. The racist Black Panthers. Anyway.
Some in his own party. We have CNN chief data analyst Harry Enton with us now. All right, Harry, put the turnout into context for us historically.
Yeah, I'll note a historic little anecdote, which was my mother voted early. If my mother's voting early, you can vote early too here in New York City. But let's take a look here at the numbers, what we're looking at so far. You know, in 2025, we're looking at, look at this, already north of 220,000. The entire 2021 campaign, only had 170,000 people turn out early, and we're only 3 days into this thing. I think we might be looking at the highest turnout in a New York City mayoral election since at least 2001, which of course was a close affair between Mark Green, the Democrat, and the Republican Mike Bloomberg. And you might have to go all the way back to 1993, when of course David...
Don't say 1993. Fuck you. Is this clown like 22 years old or something? Who says that? 1993, you son of a bitch. 1993, fuck you.
David Dinkins, the incumbent mayor, was defeated by Rudy Giuliani, the Republican.
Harry, who do you...
That kills me. How many times a Republican has become the mayor of New York City, which is allegedly one of the most liberal cities in the world, and yet Republicans flip the seat of the New York City mayoral chair just as much as the presidency flips from red to blue. Like, that's crazy to me. That would be like the governor of California being a Republican one year or one term, and then Democrat the next. Like, that would be crazy. That would be like Texas being Republican one term and then Democrat the next. Like, that's crazy. Yeah, this guy is a millennial and he's saying 1993. What a douchebag. So anyway, it's looking good for voter turnout. Usually the higher the voter turnout, the more left-leaning and liberal the votes end up being. So that's a good opportunity for Mamdani, I would say. The hope, though, but also the worry, is that if and / when Mamdani wins, is he gonna follow through? Because right now, it doesn't seem too terribly hopeful that he is, in fact, going to follow through. He's giving a lot of good lip service, but he has been walking back a lot of that lip service as well. So, hold our breaths that he ends up being the person that he is presenting himself to be if he wins, which is looking like he might win. Let's see. I guess we'll talk more shit about the Trump-China deal.
And Patricia Kim is a fellow at the Brookings Institution's China Center for Asia Policy Studies. And Patricia, thank you for coming on to break this down a little further.
Patricia!
So President Trump is touting this deal, calling it an outstanding group of decisions. What's your assessment?
Her assessment is...
Leaders would de-escalate tensions between the two economies by extending the trade truce, and that's exactly what happened. But what's important to note is that this is a temporary...
Did she not restart at all? She was just talking that whole time, muted, and then just like a gangster trucked on anyway, mid-sentence. That's awesome.
Temporary truce, not a permanent or comprehensive deal. And the two sides are largely back to where they were earlier this year before the latest round of escalation began.
Which is what we were saying.
And it's hard to see this as a major win for the United States, which has long sought to rebalance what many U.S. policymakers have described as an unfair economic relationship with China.
An unfair economic relationship with China that the United States of America created bipartisanly since fucking Reagan. Reagan started this shit. Globalization, trickle-down economics, laissez-faire corporatism, right? Sure, we can maybe point the finger a little bit more strongly at Clinton with NAFTA, but then you got Bush, and then you got Obama. Like, all of our business and manufacturing went from the United States, where it was, and had been for decades and centuries, right? And then shipped it off to China because of slave wage labor that existed there, which could make cheap goods for a lot less and then sell them here. So, this unfair trade advantage with China, we created through policy across decades of economic policy across Republican and Democratic administrations.
Now, President Trump said he agreed to reduce the tariff rate by 10% because China agreed to work very hard to stop the flow of fentanyl. Those were his words. But Chinese imports still face a 47% tariff rate. So is this just a first step?
Yes, I think it is a first step. We heard that President Trump has committed to visit Beijing next April. And so this gives the two sides about 6 more months to work towards a more permanent deal. And so the question going forward is, will the two leaders, will Washington and Beijing be able to use that runway to hammer out a more sustainable and comprehensive deal, not just another truce? And will it get to more structural issues that have plagued the U.S.-China relationship, like Chinese subsidies or overcapacity in key industries, or issues of reciprocity when it comes to market access for U.S. companies operating in China? So there are a lot of issues that still need to be worked out, and we'll have to watch and see how the two sides use the time between now and April.
China also agreed to delay restrictions on minerals that are critical for computer chips by a year. Trump says he thinks they'll end up renewing that annually. But how impactful do you think that can be, whether or not it's renewed?
Well, I think it's very impactful. I think it's very important for many U.S. companies and companies around the world to have a steady access to rare earth minerals that China has cultivated a dominance in. I think the Chinese side is going to continue to use it as a tool when it comes to the negotiating table. It used these in the past vis-a-vis Japan, when China and Japan were embroiled in territorial disputes. And so I imagine they will never fully take that off the table. I think they understand that they have a big advantage here. But at the same time, this is also pushed.
All right, couple of questions here. Is Xi Jinping significantly younger than Trump? Because there's a lot of gray. There's actually a lot of color in his hair. So is Xi Jinping just not that old, or is he dyeing his hair? Secondly, and significantly more importantly, China has been using rare earth metals against everybody as a leverage. And it's Japan that is the most dominant figure in developing technologies like chips and CPUs and stuff like that, right? So if China can put the screws on Japan, like, America is nowhere even close to being able to compete at that point. So again, we are playing with fire, with technology that we require, with a country that has no reason to work with us. None. And we continue to play with that fucking fire.
The U.S. and other countries to look around to try to...
Did you hear the Freudian slip? The U.S. and other companies? So, he's 72. Well, then maybe he is dyeing his hair. But he's doing a lot better job dyeing his hair than whatever fake nonsense Trump is doing.
Reduce their dependence on China, but this isn't something that's going to happen overnight.
Trump also says China will buy...
And Xi was looking at Trump with absolute contempt, which is also worth noting.
Massive amounts of American soybeans and other farm products. What does that mean for American farmers?
Well, I think it's been a real sort of source of concern from American farmers that China has cut its purchases of soybeans and has looked to South America as a supplier. And so I think that was a priority for President Trump. The Chinese have agreed that they will restart agricultural purchases.
Key word, China has agreed to restart agricultural purchases, meaning China was already doing this. China already agreed to buy soybeans and agricultural products from the United States of America. China already said they would do this. And then Trump had to stick his orange dick in the cereal and fuck it up. So now China's like, all right, we want to go back to square one? Great. We're willing to go back to square one. Again, we are still losing because the tariffs are higher. Like, overall, that 47% is still higher than what they were at the beginning of the year. So We are still at a net negative. Even by trying to reset the board to January, we are still at a net negative. And China walks away like, you dumb motherfucker, you just gave me what I had going to begin with. Like, China won the second trade war with Trump. This is the second trade war that Trump waged against China, and he lost both. And Xi won both. Like, this is not the way to try and play games with China. Especially when you're way out of your depth and don't even understand the game that you're playing.
I think there was also some discussion about China purchasing more energy from the United States as well. But, the question is, what will China expect in return? One area where the Chinese have been pushing is for the U.S. to relax its export restrictions on high-end chips. And the President Trump has said that this was discussed, but the details haven't been agreed. So this is also an area that we'll need to be watching.
So okay, so this is I get this is going to be super nerdy. China is already developing chips, as in like GPUs and CPUs, that are competing with or exceeding the capabilities of the market dominant chip makers, which would be NVIDIA, Intel, and AMD. So the big three are dominating the market, and China is now entering into it and already meeting or exceeding the quality and specifications of the big three. And that is what's being suppressed. If the Chinese chipsets make it into the market, it will dramatically change the entire landscape of chipset markets, Intel, NVIDIA, and AMD globally. It will completely change it. It would be the equivalent of a meteor hitting planet Earth and reconfiguring our planet's topography. That is the level of impact this industry in China, this burgeoning industry in China, will have. Because again, China had to develop their own chipsets because of the trade, not quite embargo, but disparities that made it less lucrative and viable for China to take things like Intel or NVIDIA or AMD. So that's the other thing that was being talked about.
Now, Trump and Xi didn't discuss Taiwan or TikTok. Do you think that was strategic or a missed opportunity?
It was a 2-hour meeting. I think the focus really was on extending the trade truce, which is what happened. There was a lot of concern that President Xi might push President Trump to make concessions when it comes to U.S. policy on Taiwan. That didn't happen, and so I'm sure many...
That would have been gangster, by the way. Hey, I'll buy your soybeans if you fuck off about Taiwan. He could have done it, too. That's the thing. Xi could have done it. He actually knows how to negotiate and how to negotiate hard and manipulate his opponent. He's an actual strategist. He's an actual statesman. He is a dangerous, scary motherfucker. Trump is a fucking child sitting in my office. There is no chance Xi couldn't have achieved that goal if he really wanted to.
In Taipei are relieved. But having said that, now that there's a date for a summit in China on the calendar, we may see the Chinese side pushing the United States to move in directions that are more favorable to China when it comes to...
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, Xi, every time he looks at Trump, he smiles at the camera and then just looks at him with disgust when Trump looks away. It every single time.
Taiwan. I mean, Beijing has always tried to condition greater U.S.-China engagement on the premise of the United States respecting its sovereignty claims over Taiwan. And so I think this is a space to watch. Will the Chinese push for the U.S. to press pause on arms sales to Taiwan? Will they push the U.S. to dial down diplomatic exchanges or unofficial security cooperation that the U.S. has with the island? I think they very much will use this 6-month runway to try to get the U.S. to make concessions on Taiwan.
All right, Brooke.
And that's That's probably going to happen next. But here's the thing.
Institution fellow Patricia.
Between those concessions and this administration, being what it is, while those foreign relations are occurring, Trump is also trying to consolidate authoritarian power in America. So the more that goes to his head, control over America, the more he's going to use that ego and narcissism on the international stage and try and flex muscle against world leaders like he tried to do with these tariffs, only for that to blow back in his face as well. So the question really, I'm really hoping that the authoritarianism in America gets curbed or cooled by foreign pressure from the outside, so that he can't actually leverage any of the authoritarian power he's gaining or cultivating in the United States, and hopefully cause some blowback as well, trying to, undermine or cripple that foundation. Durandi, welcome back. I thought you were leaving to go to bed. I did not watch Train to Busan. Here's an interesting story.
Nearly 3 years.
A teacher was shot by a first grader. That is probably one of the most American headlines to ever America.
After Virginia teacher Abby Zwerner was shot by her 6-year-old student, her $40 million lawsuit against the Newport News Public Schools has made it to trial. Officials say back in 2023, the 6-year-old brought his mother's handgun to Richneck Elementary School, where he intentionally shot Zwerner during her first grade class.
Female victim, she's been shot in the abdomen as well as a through and through into the hand.
Zwerner's lawyers argue the school's assistant...
She was shot twice by a fucking first grader? Intentionally. A first grader intentionally brought a gun to school to shoot their teacher. That's insane.
Principal at the time, Ebony Parker, failed to act after being told multiple times that day that the boy had a gun.
Ignoring multiple credible reports of a firearm not only violates protocol, but it puts all lives in danger.
In court yesterday, one teacher testified that when Parker did nothing, she checked the boy's backpack herself.
He was like balled up in his seat, and that is not normal for him. I said, "Can I have that bag?" And he said, no one is getting that bag.
But police say the boy took the gun out of the backpack before the search, allowing him to access it later. Her attorney insists Parker fulfilled her legal duty and says Parker was required by law that day to oversee a state exam.
No one could have predicted this. No one could have seen this coming.
The student's mother, now serving prison time for child neglect, spoke to ABC News in 2023.
Do you feel in any way responsible for the shooting?
Yes, of course. That is my son, so I am, as a parent, obviously willing to take responsibility for him.
Zwerner said she needed multiple surgeries after the shooting and lost full use of her hand.
The trial is expected to last 2 weeks.
There was no part of that report that I could even predict what was going to happen next. So, the principal was told that there was a student with a gun on campus and ignored it. The principal ignored it because she had to oversee testing for her students by the state, which somehow took precedence over the gun that was present. A different teacher actually was trying to check the bag, but the kid refused to actually allow it to be checked. And then at some point, that kid shot the teacher twice, resulting in obviously surgery, especially when we're talking about abdominal wounds, and the loss of her hand, the loss of the use of her hand. That's literally like my job. Not in the getting shot part. But we have an actual chain link fence with multiple turnstile points of entry, single way entries with barbed wire on top. We have a digital entryway and a button that has a camera and a microphone to speak into and a speaker to hear from. Except that system doesn't work as intended. The button that lets you talk to people outside from inside doesn't fucking work. Tens of thousands of dollars spent on the system, and it doesn't work. So my company's policy is buzz the people in, let them come into the front office, and then engage with them. If these people were masquerading as contractors and actually wanted to cause harm to somebody in the company, our actual company policy makes it so that we are the ones that allow them to bypass our security systems first, to then give them full entry to our facility to do whatever they please. Make that make sense. That is the kind of corporate policies that are happening all over America. Hey, this student has a gun. Sorry, not important. I have to do this testing with these kids. Can't deal with that gun. All right, well, I'm going to look for this gun. Oh, the kid isn't going to let me, but I can't force the bag away from the kid in case it is a gun in there, and then I get shot. Because I'm a fucking teacher. And I am not trained to deal with inspecting mysterious packages or handling firearms or children with firearms, for that matter. Unfucking believable. I want to make it make sense, but then I'd lose a ton of brain cells. No, that's my sentiments exactly. All right, I'm going to see if I can pronounce that word. I fucking hate my alexithymia. Alexithymia. Alexithymia, is that... But the emoji you just shared is heterochromia. So I'm confused. Anyway, America, I guess. Oh! This is definitely something we really 100% need to cover today. Utah...
They want to put up more of the...
Utah has just approved a 1,300-person mega camp for homeless people. Utah, in the year of our Lord, October 30th, 2025, approved a concentration camp for homeless people. That's the headline. That is the fucking headline.
These alligator Alcatraz style mega tent sprung structure type facilities. They've got the kind of pilot project for that in Utah, where the governor has said, we are going to completely support and implement Trump's executive order. And just last week, their homelessness board...
What executive order requires concentration camps for homeless people? Did we miss that? Did we miss that somewhere? Am I hallucinating? Because I don't remember that executive order. Or was it an executive order that covered something else? Put these fools in those camps, the ones who started it. Exactly. I mean, it's still inhumane, but giving them a piece of their own medicine on their way to their Nuremberg-style trials might be exactly what the doctor ordered. Right, how about funding actual housing? We have more empty houses than homeless people. And the worst part is, it is more expensive to put people in prison or even in concentration camps than it would be to give them a livable wage. Like, if we gave every homeless person $60,000, we would still be saving, on average, $20,000 to $60,000, depending on the state. Because that's how much it costs to incarcerate someone. Anywhere from $80,000 to $120,000 per person. That is insane. Trump ordered the removal of the homeless. This is how they're doing it. Well, I don't remember that being the case. I don't remember that. We probably covered it. Maybe it was a couple months ago, right? But, like, given all the other shit that he's been doing, this isn't surprising, but yikes. An executive order allowing for concentration camps to be built to put homeless people in. That's disgusting. I think they're waiting to give those houses to the top 1%, but they won't take them for some strange reason. Yeah. Crazy.
Which was created by some Cicero legislation. They passed a plan for a 1,300 person megatent camp 7 miles outside of downtown in the middle of nowhere, no public transportation. 300 beds are going to be involuntarily committed, locked facilities. Another set of beds are going to be no voluntary entry or exit. It's going to be where you get sent for jail diversion. And then the rest of the beds, even though theoretically you could come and go, they're going to be actively enforcing anti-camping, anti-loitering, all these other laws. The thing that scares me the most is that they say some of these units are going to be work-conditioned housing, which to me means forced labor. And we've seen some of these other bills introduced at the state level that also have this forced labor element to them in Louisiana and West Virginia. To my eyes, I see them kicking out all the undocumented, low-paid labor from the country. Gotta make up for it somewhere. Gotta make up for it somewhere.
Turning our attention.
I don't know how much more disturbing the news has to get before people start realizing that we are literally building Nazi-style concentration camps in America. It was ordered by the president to build Nazi-style concentration camps in America. When we say Trump is a fucking Nazi and following the Nazi playbook, well, they're not death camps yet. As far as we know, there's still tent cities in Utah. Utah gets up to 120 degrees. And if all you have covering and protecting yourself is a fucking tent, you will die due to exposure, due to heat, due to dehydration, and then the extreme temperatures of cold at night. Those are death camps. They just don't have gas chambers. The only difference between that and a Nazi-style concentration camp is the fact that they actually built gas chambers. In ours, you'll just fucking die due to the elements. Or Alligator Auschwitz, you'll die from a hurricane. Like, instead of there being a facility to kill people, we just wait for nature to do the deed, and we just say, oh, what a shame, all so sad. This is beyond ridiculous. This is beyond cruel. This is honestly
they want to put
rehashing the Nazi-style concentration camp. Like that's all that can really be said about this. What the flying fuck? I guess I don't have a playlist for political content. Son of a bitch. And then we got the executive order itself. Signs an executive order to make it easier to remove homeless people from streets. I see. Calls for changes to make it easier for states and cities to remove outdoor encampments and get people into mental health or addiction treatment. Okay, so mental health or addiction treatment. In what universe is a concentration labor camp mental health or addiction treatment? It also includes involuntary civil commitment for those who are at risk to themselves or others. Again, How is that definitive of civil commitment? Endemic vagrancy, disorderly behavior, sudden confrontations, and violent attacks have made our cities unsafe. So basically, these activities minus vagrancy, this shit right here is going to start being used against protesters to throw protesters into concentration camps exactly like the Nazis did. Okay? There is literally no stone left unturned from this administration that is acting like the Nazis they are. We have a secret police. We have the military in our cities. We have neighborhood raids. We have citizens supporting those neighborhood raids. We have propaganda all across our infrastructure. We are targeting the homeless. We are targeting transgender people. We are building concentration camps, and they are, in fact, death camps. We are cracking down on dissent, literally charging a congressional candidate with federal offenses for protesting ICE. We are undermining the political process generally by rigging districts and elections themselves. And we are more than likely going to have military presence at polling locations in 2026. What is there left that the Nazis didn't do, that Trump hasn't done yet? What have the Nazis done that Trump hasn't yet? Honestly, we have worse roads. And people cannot afford vehicles. So, not only are we doing the same shit Nazis do, we're not even doing the good things that Hitler did for social programs to maintain popular support of the Nazi party. Trump is gutting our healthcare systems, making shit more expensive, making things less affordable or accessible, suppressing wages, and allowing corporations to absolutely demolish jobs for AI. Right, what you said there, Durand. The Nazis never said they were death camps to its citizens. Right. Insane. Oh, okay, I see that your little paragraph there. All good. We all have our own neurodiverse issues. America's first concentration camp, out and proud. Because we've had internment camps and we've had concentration camps. But we've never actually called them that before. And we've never openly developed and publicly announced that we were creating them either. Right. The work will set you free sign is coming back. Oh my God. I forgot about that. So... that's horrible, to say the least. That is deeply, deeply fucking disturbing. But, on the plus side, I guess that's fuel for the campaign to be anti-MAGA. Fuck.
A prayer for peace after the death.
So, speaking of turmoil across the globe, Brazil is no less a victim of authoritarianism.
Police action in Rio de Janeiro's history. The death toll continues to rise a day after more than 2,000 police officers raided the Complexo da Penha favela in a crackdown against drug traffickers. People recovered bodies left behind after the raid.
So, explain to me how you, as a law enforcement agency, are going to raid a community for drug trafficking and then somehow manage to kill 120 civilians. Make that make some sense.
And laid them out in a public square to be taken to the morgue.
The police can detain those who did something wrong. That's okay. They just can't shoot them down like animals.
Angry residents marched through the favela protesting the killings.
Absolutely.
Like many in Rio, this community...
This is the energy we need in the United States every time a cop murders somebody. We need to be in these streets across the country. And for the most part, we do when it's high profile, when it goes viral. But, like...
community is under the control of criminal organizations. In this case, the Red Command, Brazil's second largest gang. But gun battles between police and traffickers have left thousands of innocent residents caught in the crossfire and living in constant fear of stray bullets.
Which is exactly the kind of scenario Trump is trying to create in Chicago, in Los Angeles, in San Francisco, New York City, and every other city that Trump is trying to deploy ICE and the military in. He's trying to create this kind of breakdown of society to justify the use of force. The difference between that and Brazil is that this is economic failures. Again, look at the quality of housing in the background there, in the in this background right here. These are lean-tos at best. These are very poor quality housing. This is a very poor part of the community. That's why the gangs are thriving, because poverty is again on the rise, because domestic policy in Brazil does not give a shit about people.
Favela da Penha was totally closed off to the public yesterday. As you can see behind me, there are burnt cars that were used by the traffickers as barricades to keep the policemen out. People are back on the streets, but all of the stores around me are closed, and people are still looking for the bodies in the woods behind the favela.
More than 100 people were killed in the one-day operation, including 4 police officers. The raid...
So they killed 120 civilians, lost 4 police officers, and are calling themselves successful? Like, what's like the rub here? Is this a success? Because what it looks like is they just raised an entire community of poor people, left bodies in the streets, and then got the fuck out of Dodge.
Ordered by Rio's right-wing governor, Cláudio Castro, reportedly shot President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva.
Lula was appalled by the number of deaths.
The United Nations also expressed concern.
We fully understand the challenges of having to deal with violent and well-organized criminal groups. However, the long list of operations resulting in many deaths, which disproportionately affect people of African descent, raises questions about the way such raids are conducted.
No shit. And the fact that we're just watching bodies being carried across brazenly, and that is apparently not affecting nearly enough people to be like, hey, this is not okay and we need to be doing something about this. And what's crazy is Brazil has if I'm not mistaken, Brazil is also a coastal country. Right. I was going to say, here's Brazil. Brazil has one of the largest coasts in South America, yet we're going after Venezuela and Colombia. And Brazil actually has a drug trafficking problem, yet we're not doing fuck all terrorizing or threatening Brazil. No, instead, we're terrorizing and threatening Venezuela and Colombia and giving Argentina $40 billion for a safe haven. Yeah, the slave trade started in Brazil. No, I'm just saying, like, how is Lula allowing this? I mean, I think she just said that. He's condemning it and saying this will not be tolerated and so on and so forth. I don't know what else to say. Like, we are not getting good news out of the world. And what little good news there is usually not even unequivocally good news. Again, the center party winning in the Netherlands, on paper, is great. But the far right party still came in second. Still has a strong showing in that election. So that kind of cancels out the good. It's just not unequivocally bad. It's just, could be worse. So, okay, I see that a couple of these videos I thought we already covered because of the Democracy Now! Thing. So hold on, my bad. Let's go a little deeper in... Well, you know what? Let's go back to Democracy Now!
We begin today's show looking at U.S.-China relations and President Trump's threat to resume nuclear weapons testing. President Trump and President Xi Jinping met in South Korea and agreed to a one-year trade truce. But the trade deal was overshadowed by Trump's announcement that the U.S. would resume testing nuclear weapons for the first time since 1992. Just before his meeting with Xi, Trump wrote on Truth Social, quote, "Because of other countries' testing programs, I have instructed the Department of War to start testing our nuclear weapons on an equal basis. That process will begin immediately," Trump wrote.
It's unclear what President Trump was...
And didn't we also discuss that our entire nuclear defense and program was furloughed? Like, the people that are in charge of the nuclear defense program have been told to go home. Like, their numbers are slashed by 90%. So explain to me how this can even begin during a government shutdown when the programs themselves are straight up shuttered. Like, the people in charge of running them are being told to stay home without pay. That doesn't even begin to make sense.
Referring to Russia and China have not tested a nuclear weapon in decades. North Korea last tested one in 2017. Trump spoke briefly with reporters after his meeting with Xi, flying back to the United States.
Had to do with others. They seem to all be nuclear testing.
Nuclear arms control treaty between the United States and Russia expires. The new Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty, or New START, expires February of next year. We go right now to Dr. Ira Helfand. He's an expert on the medical consequences of nuclear war, former president of Physicians for Social Responsibility, which won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1985. He also serves on the steering committee of the Back from the Brink campaign. He's today joining us from Winnipeg, Canada, where he's speaking at the 5th Youth Nuclear Peace Summit. Dr. Helfand, welcome back to Democracy Now! You must have been shocked last night when, just before the certainly globally touted meeting between Trump and Xi, Trump sent out on social media that he's going to begin testing nuclear weapons, comparing it, saying that we have to test them on an equal basis, referring to countries like Russia and China. Can you explain what he is talking about? They, like the United States...
I think he can't explain what he's talking about because he's talking out of his fucking ass.
States haven't tested nuclear weapons in decades.
Good morning, Amy. I can't explain what he's talking about because it doesn't make any sense. As you pointed out...
I was right! Man! Am I or am I not more qualified to be president than the fucking president and his entire fucking cabinet? Whether we're talking about foreign policy, domestic policy, nuclear policy, Whether we're talking about science, whether we're talking about trade, whether we're talking about education, whether we're talking about infrastructure, it's like I actually know what I'm talking about, and this fucking chud, not this guy, the Trump. Sorry, that looked like it was directed at you, but no, that wasn't the intent. The fucking clown in the Oval Office thinks he's so smart and capable and does not know a single fucking thing that he talks about. And granted, I'm not saying I'm a subject matter expert and I have a PhD in all these things. What I am saying is I have a basic working knowledge that allows me to understand broadly and generally to a nice degree of advancement these various topics of discussion. And this motherfucker, Trump, continues to throw sticks of dynamite into everything he touches. It has to stop.
Russia and China have not tested nuclear weapons for decades. And I think the most important thing right now is that the White House has got to clarify what President Trump is talking about. If we really are going to resume explosive nuclear testing, this is an extraordinarily destabilizing decision, and one which will increase even more the already great danger that we have of stumbling into a nuclear conflict. But they need to clarify this.
With emphasis on stumbling into a nuclear conflict, because that is what is going to happen if things keep escalating. Again, the aircraft carrier off the coast of Venezuela, the extrajudicial murders of at least 10 or 11 boats at this point, threatening 2 sovereign leaders as fake leaders and narco-terrorists, and then escalating tensions with Russia, let alone China. Like, any number of those things could escalate into war, but many of those things are being directed against countries with nuclear weapons, which I'm sure he's going to discuss.
Because, as you pointed out, the statement doesn't make sense in terms of what's actually happening in the world.
And Dr. Helfand, what would these tests entail were this to actually occur the way that Trump has said?
Well, again, it's not clear what he's talking about. If he is speaking about resuming explosive nuclear testing, presumably this would not be in the atmosphere, which is prohibited by a treaty which the United States did sign and ratify in 1960.
Okay. We're talking about Trump, who is already not following the Constitution and is already flouting international law. So he also has military members and members of the FBI and an entire agency following his orders blindly as it is. The law means nothing to this piece of shit. So what's your next argument?
63, but it would be underground nuclear explosions. And the principal dangers there, I think, is political. This will undoubtedly trigger a response by other countries that have nuclear weapons and dramatically accelerate the already very dangerous arms race that the world finds itself in today. The one perhaps value of this statement is that it helps to draw attention to the fact that the nuclear problem has not gone away, as so many of us would like to believe. We are facing the gravest danger of nuclear war that has existed on the planet since the end of the Cold War, and possibly worse than it was during the Cold War. And this comes at a time when the best science we have shows that even a very limited nuclear war, one that might take place between India and Pakistan, has the potential to trigger a global famine that could kill 1/4 of the human race in 2 years. We have to recognize that reality, and we need to change our nuclear policy.
So, even the best case scenario of a nuclear war between India and Pakistan, which, what a fucking sentence that is. Even that would kill 1/3 of the human race, or 1/4, and cause a famine globally. Now, multiply that by the U.S. nuclear arsenal and potentially Russian, or Chinese, or Indian and Pakistani on top of that. Like, goodbye, human race. Like, absolutely goodbye to the human race.
So that it is no longer based on the idea that nuclear weapons make us safe, but that it recognizes the fact that nuclear weapons are the greatest threat to our safety. And for citizens in the United States in particular, I think this means doing things like are advocated by the Back from the Brink campaign, calling on the United States to stop this tit-for-tat exchange of threats with our nuclear adversaries and to enter into negotiations with all 8 of the nuclear-armed states for a verifiable, enforceable agreement that will allow them to eliminate their nuclear arsenals according to an agreed-upon timetable. And so they could all join the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons at some point when they have completed this task. This idea is dismissed sometimes as being unrealistic. I think what's unrealistic is the belief that we can continue to maintain these enormous nuclear arsenals and expect that nothing is going to go wrong. We've been lucky over and over again. This year alone, 5 of the 9 countries which have nuclear weapons have been engaged in active military conflict.
Another bone-chilling sentence that once you hear it and once you understand the context of it, 5 of the 9 countries that have nuclear weapons are in an active military engagement. Five of the 9. Russia, Israel, those are the first 2. I think he was talking about India and Pakistan, so those would be 4. And I think he might be implying America because we are threatening Venezuela and Colombia at the same time. Over half of all nuclear-capable countries are in a military conflict. Yeah, I would in fact argue that that is the most dangerous set of circumstances we have ever been as a species facing nuclear war, to include the Cold War tensions. And you know, Ira Helfand, he's doing a very good job of saying all this calmly, but that kind of makes it that much more distressing.
India and Pakistan were fighting each other. That could easily have escalated into a nuclear war between them, which could have had devastating consequences for the entire planet. And we keep dodging bullets, and we keep acting as though that's going to keep happening. It isn't. Our luck is going to run out at some point, and we have to recognize that. And we have to recognize the only way to guarantee our safety is to get rid of these weapons once and for all.
Dr. Helfand, before we conclude, just about the timing of Trump's comment, which came just days after Russia said it had successfully tested a nuclear-armed missile, which it said could penetrate U.S. defenses. Do you think Trump was responding to that without perhaps understanding that
So that's like the only part of this whole thing that is at least reassuring, is that Trump is too fucking stupid to know what he was hearing about. And so he's talking about nuclear testing when he was trying to respond to the missile that Russia, that we also talked about yesterday.
there was a difference between that and carrying out explosive nuclear tests?
It's certainly possible, and the timing suggests that may be what's happening. But again, the White House needs to clarify this statement, because as it stands, it was an explicit instruction to begin testing at the test sites, which suggests nuclear explosive testing. I suspect that is not what the president meant, but at this point, who knows?
Right. It was nuclear capable, not nuclear armed. And finally, I mean, he's talking about doing this immediately, instructing what he called the War Department, the Department of War. Isn't the Energy Department in charge of the nuclear stockpile? And aren't scores of nuclear scientists now furloughed during the government shutdown? Who is...
Thank you. She did bring it up. I knew. Amy fucking Goodman. Let's go.
Maintaining this very dangerous stockpile.
But that was another striking inconsistency in that statement. It is not the Pentagon, which he referred to as the Department of War, that would be conducting nuclear testing if it recurs. It is, Amy, as you suggested, it's the Department of Energy that is responsible for this activity.
Now, to be fair, I will admit freely when I'm wrong. I was not aware that the Department of Energy was in charge of our nuclear arsenal. I 100% thought it was the military because I guess I can't talk about why I thought that, but in my military career, there was pretty common knowledge regarding nuclear arsenals and their locations. So I was definitely under the impression that they were controlled by the military. But hey, if it's by the Department of Energy, even better. Except for the possibility then that if Trump can just manipulate the Department of Energy or any of the departments on a whim, then he theoretically has the possibility of wielding full control over the Department of Energy and thus the nuclear arsenal, outside of the confines of the military and military law. Granted, this is all assuming that he would follow the laws and the regulations in the first place, which has been evident that he won't. So the fact that this unhinged individual has the access to the largest nuclear arsenal on Earth and is willing to use it and expand it, among many of the other things that should be deeply disturbing and terrifying, that one is making its way up the list. That one is obviously not a priority for him. The invading American cities, terrorizing brown people, and sending homeless people to concentration camps, those are his priorities. Right below that is military muscle.
So again, another area in which the statement is just confusing, puzzling, and needs clarification. And I think, this is a really urgent matter because as it stands, the statement itself is destabilizing. It raises tension. It creates further problems. And we don't need that anymore.
And opens the door for other countries, is that right, to test nuclear weapons?
Oh, absolutely. And that would be, there'd be absolutely nothing the U.S. could do that would more undermine our security at this point with regards to nuclear weapons than to resume testing. It would give a green light to many other countries to resume testing as well and lead to a markedly increased instability in the global situation.
Thanks for watching.
That was an abrupt end to that interview. Well, we haven't once gone to this screen today, surprisingly. But, I kind of... You know what? No, before we do that, let's do one more video, and then I will... The first of its kind grocery store opens in food desert in downtown Atlanta.
First of its kind grocery store.
We wanted to... I think somebody on stream brought this up. It might have been Steve. It might have been somebody else that brought this up, but we didn't get the chance to cover it. So let's cover it now, and then I will... direct everyone.
Store is set to open in downtown Atlanta. It's aimed at tackling food insecurity in the city.
That is a really big problem. Atlanta News at first is Don Shipman is live downtown outside of that new municipal grocery store. So Don, it's actually inside one of the city's iconic buildings.
Yeah, we all know this building. It's the Olympia building. Most recently, there was a Walgreens here, but now this new supermarket, and you can see the entrance right there. It is not open just yet. Actually, today they were putting up the new signage on the outside. They were power washing the sidewalks earlier. This new grocery store.
Oh, look at that. It's a brand new grocery store. I'm assuming it's supposed to be public and free and so on and so forth. And they already have a cop or armed security in front of it. Out fucking standing.
Is called Azalea Fresh Market, and what makes it unique is that it's funded with a partnership between the city, Invest Atlanta, and Savvy Provisions. In all, the city invested $3.5 million into this $5.4 million project. City leaders say that food deserts disproportionately impact low-income neighborhoods, deepening existing inequalities. This store is designed to bring affordable fresh food to this area of downtown. Now, also part of the city's investment, safety. As the mayor put it, businesses thrive when they don't have to worry about uncertainty of crime. People who live, work, and go.
am so sick and fucking tired of these sycophants talking about safety. Bro, your cities are unsafe because people are driven to crime because they cannot afford food, shelter, adequate wages, and health care. That is why people turn to crime. Food, shelter, wages, and health care. They need food, they need shelter, and they want wages to get those two things, and health care, which they also want and need wages for. But now the Affordable Care Act is out the window, premiums are doubling, cost of goods is going up, and wages have stayed suppressed since fucking 1985. Fuck you and you're feeling safe. Like, invest in your communities. And you won't have to worry about safety.
Go to school downtown are happy to have healthy food options.
If I have the option and I know it's going to be like just as good, I'll probably go for the healthier option.
And we made a commitment to this location, to Savvy, and to the residents and businesses of downtown, particularly right here around Woodruff Park, that we're going to make sure that it's safe.
Hence the armed
security. You can see the security right outside the door there. According to Invest Atlanta, the store is expected to generate $15 million a year in overall economic impact for this area of downtown. Plans are already underway for another store, similar concept, in Southwest Atlanta on Campbellton Road. That's slated to open later in the year. This store in the coming days. We're live down.
Now, imagine that. They spent $3 million and then another 1.5 was thrown in there. So it was a $5 million project. That store alone is going to have a $15 million impact. Almost as if investing in your community, even directly from the government investing in the community, helps the community. It's almost as if investing in social wellness helps the society and the populace in that society. Crazy how socialism and populism do great things for people. It's a crazy thought, right? So, aside from me crashing out about the need to feel safe, this is overall a great concept and something that should be lauded and celebrated. And now I actually forgot what I was going to do with the direct, but it is the end of the stream, so we'll just wrap it up then at that point. So, first and foremost, thank you all for watching. Thank you all for joining me today on stream. Sorry that it was a bit messy with the hour delay after the fact, but we still got quite a bit done. I guess we would have gotten even more done had we had that extra hour, but we got through, I want to say we got through all of the major talking points on this stream. So, well done. Thank you all for being a part of it. This was Recap Thursdays on the Samuel Ronan stream. We stream Tuesday through Thursdays. Obviously, you can see that right there. Tuesdays, we talk about domestic policy, U.S. politics. On Wednesdays, we talk about foreign policies and politics. And of course, Thursdays, we do a summary. With that being said, I look forward to seeing you all on Tuesday. Please enjoy that fall back, that extra hour of daylight savings that we're going to get. Enjoy that rest. Enjoy Halloween tomorrow. Be safe out there. And if you're going trick-or-treating, get an extra piece of candy for me. With that being said, I will see you all on Tuesday, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. Samuel Ronan, your president, out.